What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? How are we doing? A lot going on because training camps has officially started. Every single team in the league is on the field in some form or fashion. Veterans, basically all of them except a couple guys throughout the league have reported, and we're off and running and camp has started. The only thing I miss about training camps is the free breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which was always really good. But other than that, we got a lot going on, and we're going to hit on it. Fields avoids disaster, and the Jets avoid potential disaster, maybe. Ben Johnson on guys. Some thoughts on his coaching tactics early in his tenure as the Bears head coach. Something Kyle Shanahan said on a podcast I wanted to touch on. We have Nick Caserio talking about the reason that he fully guaranteed the second-round contract. And then William Belichick, who gave his press conference today at ACC Media Days. Obviously, North Carolina, I'm sure, is going to kick off their training camp in the very near future, just like a lot of college programs. And by all accounts, ESPN plans on riding UNC like they did Colorado a couple years ago. 8 up to potential 10 games will be broadcast on the main channel. So will it work? Because Deion in Colorado was a ratings cash cow. Can Bill have some thoughts there? Obviously, it's Fugazi Friday, so I got a couple things that I need to hit on, starting with those lovebirds at the Coldplay concert. That story was wearing me out. But a lot of football going on. Very excited. Football's back. It just kind of gets my juices flowing. But before we dive in to any football, I got to tell you about my friends, my partners, and the official ticketing app of this podcast. You want to go to a football game? North Carolina saw sold out. Sold out. Do you want to go to a college football game? Saw James Franklin said we got 70,000 season ticket holders. If you want to get access to any game, college, pro, baseball, basketball, any sporting event, you name it, concerts, comedy shows. I saw Travis Kelce just posted something on Instagram. A lot of pictures with him and Taylor. You want to go to a concert, like a Taylor Swift concert. I don't even know if she's touring. But anyone that's touring, comedy shows, I got you covered. Because here's the thing. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app. Create an account and use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem the code JOHN. JOHN, that's my name, for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. I wanted to start with Ben Johnson because I think sometimes, you hear a lot the different generations, Gen X, Gen Z, millennials, and how we're all wired different. And obviously, we've all had different experiences as children depending on the years we were growing up. But I think there is a consistent theme with any young person who is a high achiever. And to make it into the NFL, especially as a guy like Caleb Williams, you have to be wired a certain way. There is a certain amount of God-given talent that people possess, right? It's a reason that they're better than you at high school. It's a reason they get into a college. But once you get at the highest level, you have to take it to another level, not just physically, but mentally, in terms of work ethic, in terms of training. It takes a lot to last. And to be a good player, you can't fake your way into that. It's why coaching in football has really separated than the other sports. Like in basketball, you're not even allowed to yell at the players anymore. They tell you what to do. And when they want you fired, you're gone. In football, you could go into every position group in the NFL and in college, and the position coach in that room is typically wearing guys out. And a lot of times, the star player. It's just the nature of the business. And watching Hard Knocks last year, I was like, something was missing with Eberflus. He's just like, this is a Saban guy? This guy was team captain for Saban's team? What? And it was just like, for a defensive guy, he just felt kind of soft. He just felt completely over his head. And listen, anytime you become a head coach from being a coordinator, there is no guarantee you're going to know what you're doing. And clearly, Eberflus is never going to be a head coach again. But Ben Johnson, people have been begging for him to take their job for a long time. I mean, Washington was flying to Detroit a couple years ago, I think, praying he'd take the job. clearly worked out for them landing Dan Quinn, but listen, we're not all our wives' first choice. And when I saw Ben Johnson is not only like kicking the first team offense off the field and yelling at guys and on guys and the intensity he's bringing to the practice field, but how hard he's riding Caleb, I went, this might have a chance. Because let's face it, the number 1 through 5 reasons the guy was hired was to fix Caleb Williams and coach the offense, which can't run without him. And I saw that he gave Caleb Williams going into the offseason a list of things that he had to work on over the summer, from studying the playbook to 30 to 40 minutes a day to working on his just footwork, which clearly needs to get better, having goals of trying to complete 70% of his passes. But even something as simple as like when you are training in the summer, make sure you are working on the throws to your left because you were terrible at those during OTAs. And I will say this, whether you're Peyton Manning or Tom Brady to Caleb Williams to any position player who's any good in the league, they want to be coached hard. They want to be pushed because that's the only way to get better. The only way to improve is when someone is willing to tell you you need to do this, that, or the other thing because what you're currently doing is not working. And in the world of football, sometimes that's very aggressive. And there are several swear words attached with the message. Guys are used to it. And I think one thing Caleb, it's fair to say, has lacked over the last several years, even going back to college, is no one was telling him anything. Like Lincoln Riley isn't exactly, I would say, viewed as a guy hard on his players, right? No one's getting him confused with Nick Saban or Kirby Smart or Brian Kelly. That's not really his MO. And then obviously Eberflus was a dead man walking the moment Caleb Williams showed up. Ben Johnson, he's got some gravitas. He's got some juice because he now, more than Caleb, is viewed as the most important guy in the organization. But if he's going to have success, he needs this player to be good. And he needs to write him. I saw a headline today. Dan Campbell kicked everyone out of practice, started practice over, like is furious, right? So where did Ben Johnson learn this from? And we're all products, definitely in football, whether it's audio or radio or podcasting, of people we've worked with, people we've worked for, people we've been around, and taking things that we like that they do into our own world. And clearly Ben Johnson, I think, is instituting some of the stuff that Dan Campbell is really good at. Writing these guys and writing them hard. Now, you can't just scream at a guy to scream at him 24/7. You got to love him up a little bit, but you got to coach him hard. Football will never change. I don't care what happens in society. The best coaches are always the guys that demand the most and are the most intense. You'd be like, well, Andy Reid gets along with everyone. Ask any player, any coach, anyone in that front office about their operation through training camp, through the season. One, they have the most physical training camp. And two, in season, I'm just taking this practice off to go in the training room. That doesn't fly. And I think if Ben Johnson wants to have success, he knows he's got to be the hardest on Caleb Williams to get the respect of all the other players on the team. Okay, you know what Scotty Scheffler taught us? You drive for show, but you putt for dough. And the easiest way for you to make some dough, betting on this week's tournament on DraftKings. From the opening round through Sunday, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered. Chris Gotterup, who just finished third at the Open and won the week before at the Scottish Open, betting favorite this week. Do think he's going to run out of juice. Do you know one name I like a lot? Tony Finau. Showed some serious life across the pond. You can get him right now to win the tournament, plus 350, or plus 3,500, excuse me. But plus 650 to top 5, plus 330 to top 10. Tony Finau has won this tournament before. So like Tony Finau a lot. Wyndham Clark, Mav McNeely, a couple other guys to keep an eye on, trending, trying to battle for a spot on the Ryder Cup team. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers, bet 5 to get 150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN, J-O-H-N. I got an H in my name, J-O-H-N. For new customers to get 150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. One thing that I never could kind of get over when I was working in football was in camp, in practice, in any scenario, even the game, when a guy would just get injured and he would be laying there on the ground and then the cart would come pick him up. And the coaching staff had no choice, just like the position groups and the position coaches and the coordinators. They had to relay this message. We're going to keep going. We're going to figure out a way to win. It's like, Coach, we just lost our two best players in the first quarter. It's like, Coach, we just, our starting left tackle just tore his ACL on the seventh day of training camp. We are double effed. Yet, as a coach, you have to almost be numb to injuries. Like you can't be phased and let it derail you. You have to have like this false sense of confidence that you can figure it out, even though there is no overcoming certain individuals. That's why Peyton Manning once famously said, or the coaches for the Colts, when John Gruden asked, like, why does Peyton Manning take all the reps? And I think Tom Moore answered simply, well, if Peyton Manning misses a game or gets injured, we're fucked and we don't practice fucked. And I was like, I appreciate that realism, but you don't get that from many coaches and you don't get that from many GMs. They try to talk almost like we'll figure it out, next man up. Well, there's no next man up when you lose an all pro player. I even argue when you lose your starting quarterback, it can really derail you. Now, how good Justin Fields is, I'm not sure he's that good, and I'm someone that loved him coming out of college. But when I woke up this morning and saw that he got carted off the field, my first thought is like, obviously, is that a season-ending injury? And typically, when stuff like that happens in training camp, no one can focus. It's really hard to function. And I've been, whether I worked in the NFL or been going to practices for a long time when I lived in the Bay Area, it just derails the practice. Now, luckily, news has come out that he just dislocated his toe, and all signs point to him being okay. It's not like he shattered his foot. It's not like he tore his ACL or tore an Achilles. Dislocated a toe, which I can't imagine felt extremely painful and probably sent chills up his body and pain that he'd never felt. So he's laying on the ground. Who knows what he thought happened, right? Which sometimes happens when a guy is carted off the field. The initial pain, they freak out and they think it's devastating. It turns out that's just going to be okay. The sick part is of this business when a guy's laying on the field, especially if there are people huddled around him, you just pray it's not one of your better players. And you just hope, especially during training camp, it's someone on the roster from 75 to 90. That while that sucks, you don't want to lose anybody. You would rather sacrifice that individual than a guy that's going to be a starter, a guy that's been to three Pro Bowls, a guy that you're going to depend on to help lead you to the playoffs, whether it's a quarterback, whether it's an offensive or defensive lineman, or whether it's one of the skill guys. And it's just a huge part of training camp. We're already seeing a bunch of guys go down. I actually had a conversation with a guy who played in the NFL for a long time. We had a phone call the other day because he wants to get into scouting and then ultimately get into coaching. And this guy's won a Super Bowl, really high level guy. And I talked to him about the situation of going to these practices, and he's like, I got my shot because someone got injured, and that's the huge part of the business. These guys get their opportunities and become consistent players because either in camp or during the season, someone shatters their leg, someone tears their tricep, someone breaks their collarbone. And all of a sudden, a guy that was a practice squad guy that you thought at the end of July or early August that somehow with an injury made the team as a backup becomes a starter. And then you look back 5 years later and he's got a second contract and he's been to a Pro Bowl. And that's how fast things happen, all because of injuries, which in this league happen at crazy rates. But we also talked about is like, and he started in an era when it was a little more physical during training camp. There were double days. I am a firm believer, and he agreed with me, is football is a lot like boxing or UFC or any sport where practice really matters. And because it's a physical sport, training your body to take that level of physicality really obviously has a huge impact in playing in the games. So building the calluses during the off season make it easier to just start week one when you're just going full go. And I think nowadays you basically go 6 months since the season ends, right? Because OTAs are a joke. They don't they barely exist. I mean, the practices on OTAs You've never worn pads in the pros. But once upon a time, they were a lot more physical and they were a lot more intense. Now, most coaches, because one, the rules, two, your players will turn you in, they don't even try. It's not even worth it. And you're paying guys so much money, you're kind of nervous that like tear an ACL or tear an Achilles. So OTAs and the spring ball have turned into a country club. It's why I've always been so critical of some of these players. Like, if you have a $200,000 bonus, $150,000 bonus, and you're training, and you can't just dedicate a month to just go to your facility to get that money, I don't care if you're making 10, 15, $20 million a year. You're an idiot. You are just wasting money because you are literally doing the same thing. And then when you are on the field, it is not very difficult. But once you come to training camp and this first practice happens, the actual training camp part, even before pads, turns into what OTAs used to be 15, 20 years ago. It's pretty intense. So all of a sudden you get these guys that get injured because you're going like 0 to 100. And I think we're a little off kilter. We're never going back. We're never going to get to a point where the double days are a part of this, where there's physicality in the offseason. But I do think that directly leads to some of these injuries. You know, we all have a bunch of credit cards, connections to hotels or airlines or a number of things. And I don't think we realize that those points and miles, they lose value when they collect dust. So think about this: a credit card with rewards that actually grows. Introducing the Gemini credit card. And with this credit card, you can earn Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos instantly with no annual fee. So every time you go to the grocery store, you go to the gas station, you go out for a night on the town, you earn instant rewards deposited straight into your account. Plus, sign up now for a $200 Bitcoin bonus to kickstart your rewards. Go to Gemini.com/John to learn more and start earning today. Terms apply. Again, visit Gemini.com/JOHN now. Terms apply. The Gemini credit card is issued by WebBank. In order to qualify for the intro $200 crypto bonus, your application must be approved by June 30th, 2025. And spend $3,000 your first 90 days. Terms apply. Some exclusions apply to instant rewards in which rewards are deposited when the transaction posts. This content is not investment advice, and trading crypto involves risks. For more details on rates, fees, and other Gemini credit card terms, see rates and fees. Go to Gemini.com/John, John, to learn more and start earning today. Kyle Shanahan, which had an awesome run as the Niners coach. Last year sucked, but overall, multiple Super Bowls, ton of NFC championship games, ton of big wins, ton of playoff wins, has proven to be one of the better offensive coordinators in the league. And to me, his defining attribute is being able to win without like a top 5, 6, 7 quarterback. He can win with a good player. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo was a top 12 quarterback early on when he got to the Niners. Purdy's like somewhere between 8 to 12, and he can win. And he can win playoff games. He can beat really good teams in the regular season. He can compete to win a Super Bowl with those type guys. And in the local market, and people that, you know, cover individual teams, they get hard on their coach for things that maybe nationally aren't as discussed. And one thing with Kyle has always been, why don't you allow your quarterbacks to do more at the line of scrimmage? And he was recently on with Tim Kawakami, a good buddy of mine, who's one of the better, I would say, local media guys in the country, probably second to none, especially with the versatility to be, no one knows the Niners and the Warriors better than Tim. And he's really, really good at forging relationships with Steve Kerr, Jim Harbaugh, Kyle Shanahan, Mark Davis, Jed York, and he just gets really good interviews. And I thought Kyle talking and discussing about why he does so much as the coach instead of putting it on the quarterback's plate was really fascinating conversation. Let's take a listen.
How is your offense? Mine, I think that's too overwhelming for guys. And I think they can be more successful if you can take a lot of that off the plate and don't make them think as much on that, so they can play faster and play a position that, to me, only like 10 people in the world can play it at the right level anyways. And so when you put that all on a guy, I think it makes it harder for them to play. Like Peyton Manning did that. Peyton Manning was also in one formation his whole career. And they better have the right guys. Peyton's one of the best of all time. But that's how he had done it his whole life. You add some more stuff in there, and he won't be able to do it. But he was elite at what he could do, which was enough. Matt Ryan, my first year with him, he's like, hey, can I audible and get out of this? I'm like, dude, you can do whatever you want. I think he'll start to trust that, hey, you normally audibled on that play in the past. Well, us, when we have that look, we have a contingency plan right there. So you can't just throw it to him and not think and have to change everything and just react. That's an option. If we don't put that there, I'm not going to put you in a bad situation. So now I'm going to have you call 2 plays. If you see that, I'm going to have you touch your ears and go to the second play. So we've already given you the option. You don't have to make it up in your head in the middle of the game and look for everything. Or I don't have a second option. I don't have a contingency plan. We're going to coach you up on all week because you are responsible here. This is a play with a lot of issues. If we get the right look, please run it. If not, get to something else you like. If I say that to a quarterback, they'll be like, what are you doing? Are you going to work? Are you going to work this week? Like, I'm out here doing all this stuff and you can't give me a good answer. Don't you watch film all night? Oh, yeah, we can. And then, so it's weird to me. I have as much confidence in Brock and I get more and more each year. He was doing all this stuff his first year when he came in as a third string quarterback and only played 7 games. So we're not going to add stuff just to add it. If we think it helps us win, hell yeah. If Brock can do anything, if I tell Brock not to do something because I think it'll hurt us and he does it anyways and it works, I'm going to be the first person chest bumping him when he comes to the sidelines. And then I'm going to ask him Monday, like, what were you thinking there? And if he says something smart, I'm going to be like, dude, why don't you bring that up earlier in the week? Like, that would have helped us. But that doesn't happen much because we have a plan and there's not many situations. His plan is to not have 100 thoughts. It's to be locked into your job. And when this look happens, you can have one other thought, touch your ears and run the other thing. And I try to make guys as decisive as possible and clutter the noise in their head.
Yeah, he's not pushing for this stuff that I can imagine, right? He's not saying, God damn it, Kyle, let me call a 2-minute here. Or is he?
I've never had a quarterback really be like that. I remember when Kirk Cousins took over for Robert and there's like 3 games left in the year. And there was a third down play and Dallas was running a blitz that made us hot. And my answer was, hey, when you're hot, just throw that slant. But I was going to call it on 3rd and 8. And the guy was going to have to run a good route to get 8 yards. If I called it on 3rd and 6, it was an easy answer. He goes, hey, Kyle, if you call that on 3rd and 8, just because he might not get the first down, are you okay if I change the protections and get it all and then go for the deeper play? I'm like, yeah, just you're in your 2nd year. Are you comfortable doing that? And he goes, yeah, I do it all the time. He studied it all week. It happened 3 times in the game. He got one of them right. The other 2 he messed up on. I wasn't mad. It was all right. At the end of the game, the next day he came to my office Monday morning. He goes, hey, Kyle, do you mind if I don't do that anymore? He goes, I go, why? He goes, that was so stressful for me all week. I had to study all this stuff. I was looking for it on every play the whole game. He goes, I was always thinking about that, and I didn't fucking play.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, dude, I don't want you to think you have to do that stuff. Trust, we're working, so you don't have to do that. If you can, please do it.
When we talk over and over about the power and what good coaches bring to the table, especially in this modern day sport, football, college or pro, when offense is at such a premium, I think Kyle just laid out to you why his value is so high. Because what he essentially said is, I'm the guy playing chess against the defensive coordinator and their players because it actually makes it easier on my quarterback. And when you put too much on the quarterback, one, most guys aren't Peyton Manning. And in a weird way, he gave like a backhanded compliment to Peyton. He's like, listen, Peyton was a genius, one of the great players of all time, but he was essentially in the shotgun every play of his career. And it wasn't that varied, so he could control it pretty easily, whether he wanted to check into a run or a pass or audible at the line of scrimmage. But in this offense, where we are shifting and motioning and doing a million things every single play, it's actually easier on the quarterback just to call the play. Because my skill is to be able on every one of our plays, obviously I'm not going to be 100%, but to have an answer for anything we see. And obviously it's going to be inevitable. Sometimes you're going to need the quarterback to ad-lib, which actually Purdy can because he's a pretty good athlete. But this is me playing chess versus them, and my quarterback just needs to execute it. So I was told a long time ago when one of Kyle Shanahan's assistants interviewed for an offensive coordinator job, his pitch was really, listen, one, we plan on running the ball a lot, and two, we aren't going to ask the quarterback ideally to throw it 40 to 50 times. Ideally, we'd like that number to be from 25 to 30. And out of that 25 to 30 passes, hopefully 15 plus, so over half of them, are going to be layup throws. And then potentially another 10 of those 30, so we're at 25, there are going to be schemed openings for him to hit as long as he executes. And then a small percentage, let's say around 10% of the passes, he might need to ad lib and make some plays. But for the most part, the scheme will help carry the player. And you have to be really good to function at that level. And this is why the 49ers, like for as shitty as last year was for the Niners, they were terrible because of their defense. Offensively, statistically, they actually weren't that bad. I think in a lot of offensive categories, they were in the top 10. The one thing that killed them was their red zone offense. But under Kyle Shanahan, their offense has been pretty unreal. And I think what he just said tells you why. Because it's Kyle playing the defense. He just needs Purdy or Jimmy or Matt Ryan. Like, no one's going to get Matt Ryan confused with Tom Brady, with Peyton Manning, with Aaron Rodgers, with, Brett Favre or John Elway or Steve Young. But when Matt listened to Kyle, what happened? He won the MVP of the fucking league. You showed up for a quick 9 that turned into 18. The vibes were just too good. Now you're chasing 36. Blame the pure drives, birdie putts. Most importantly, the Transfusion 5-hour energy shots. Inspired by golf's unofficial cocktail known as the Transfusion. This product brings the iconic hole-in-one combination of grape, lime, and ginger flavors to a non-alcoholic Transfusion 5-hour energy shot. Made with the classic 5-hour energy zero sugar blend of B vitamins, nutrients, and caffeine. Guaranteed to keep you clutch on the course and bring the party to the clubhouse afterwards. Perfectly sized for any golf bag. Don't hit the links without it. What are you waiting for? Amp up your next round and bomb more drives with a Transfusion 5-hour energy shot. Available now. For more information, visit 5hourenergy.com. Another topic that I found pretty interesting because it kind of became a big story. It was something no one was talking about. And then as we got closer to training camp and all these second rounders weren't signed, everyone's like, wait, are all these second rounders holding out for fully guaranteed contracts? And it turns out most of them were not because most of them were not getting that. But a lot of people thought that the reason and the catalyst for that conversation was Nick Caserio and the Houston Texans signing the Iowa State wide receiver that I think they drafted pick 34 overall to a fully guaranteed contract. And I did a little digging and asked around on why, but I think Nick Caserio laid out his reasoning on why he made the move that I think became a huge talking point for the last several weeks around the NFL.
Yeah, I would say it's really much ado about nothing. I think it was a kind of fabricated story. Let's just take a step back. And again, when you're reading about this in the Wall Street Journal, everybody's got too much time on their hands. But just philosophically, when you look at, say, contracts in the second round specifically, so when you look at the top of the second round last year, I want to say those contracts were 92, 93% fully guaranteed, right? So let's just kind of fast forward, adjust for inflation a little bit. There's probably going to be some marginal increase. So let's just say the number is 3 to 5%, right? So that small margin that's left, it's a difference of, it's not that much. I mean, you guys are all smart. You can do the math. So, again, we're trying to get ahead and stay ahead on trends. Eventually, it was probably going to get there anyways. So we just felt like that was the right thing for us to do. And I think what happened after that, honestly, was a non-story that was made into a story. But, I mean, everything kind of worked itself out. I think all of us in the league, myself included, have anticipated, at some point, probably the first 4 or 5, you're going to end up at that spot anyways. So why wait around? Why kind of bicker back and forth, go back and forth on the agents? Like, get to a resolution. I mean, I think people that kind of know me and that negotiate with me, I'm kind of a bottom line guy. So let's get to the bottom line. Let's not hem and haw. And, if we think everybody's comfortable with it, then we're going to go ahead and move forward. It didn't really impact Ursary, which is a part of the second round. I think that was more of some other factors that led to kind of the stall there. So we're always going to handle business however we see fit, try to do it logically, be pragmatic about it, try to do it in a responsible way. So, again, the off season, there's not a lot of things to talk about. So when I start being around in the Wall Street Journal, this is it's a nothing deal.
To me, the most important point that Caserio just made, and I would give this as advice to any human being, whenever you're negotiating, whether it's car, whether it's a home, whether it's your salary, I think sometimes, and I've had a front row seat. I've been in negotiations since I left radio, doing them for myself, whether it's advertisers, whether it's stuff with the volume, whether it was stuff before that with Colin. Hell, just did some stuff with Fox Sports. I enjoy it, and I think I'm better at it because I spend less time arguing over little things. And I think seeing my wife, who's in real estate, the amount of people that spend energy and effort and ego and just time arguing over $5,000 on $1 million home. It's like, what are we talking about here? And I think what Nick Caserio just said is, I signed him to a fully guaranteed contract, but when you actually factor in the numbers, last year was 93% of the guy in the same spot was fully guaranteed. If you factor in inflation over the course of a year, that number is well over 95% of the contract is going to be guaranteed. So if I fully guaranteed the contract, people acted like I went from, well, you went from 50% to 100. That's not the case at all. I actually just realized that, yeah, we're talking about 2 or 3% potentially here. So am I going to lose sleep, or am I going to worry about a negotiation of 2 or 3% with a player that I just drafted at pick 34, that if you tell me right now, when I use a pick like that is one of the most valuable assets in the league, that historically you can get first round talents but pay them second round money, and you would never draft a guy at 34. Now, you won't know until it plays out, but you think that guy has a chance to be like a Pro Bowl player. You definitely think that guy has a chance to be a second contract guy on your team. So to fully guarantee his contract is not that crazy. And then he discussed, well, yeah, we had another second rounder later in the round who didn't get a fully guaranteed contract. Why? Because the money was way bigger. I think once you start getting 50, 55, pick 60, well, 75, 80% of their contract was guaranteed. So when you talk about even factoring inflation, you're still going up 15, 18% to fully guarantee that contract. You're not going to do that. Like, you typically don't get an 18% raise in a 12-month span. But giving a guy a 2 or 3% raise, which is essentially what he did, guaranteeing him his whole contract, I'd argue is just smart business. And I think the way Nick talked about it shows you this league now. I think there was just a story that $455+ million got distributed just from the media deal. So the Packers, they don't even have an owner, made well over $700 million in revenue last year. These businesses now are so big. The day and age of just meathead people running these organizations, you have no shot. Now, it doesn't mean every GM is some great financial wizard. Obviously, guys lean on whoever is running the finances in the operation, your contract negotiator, your team president. Like, you have people that master in that, right? But you better be pretty well versed on economic structures as we move forward, because the numbers are just too big. And if you spend time arguing over the little stuff, your job's going to be your job's already difficult enough. So I thought the way Caserio kind of defined it right there not only made a lot of sense, but just made life easier. And I think it's not shocking at all that the Texans are going to be projected to win their division again and be one of the better teams in the AFC for the third straight year. Okay, I end on this. I saw a headline today that could the North Carolina Tar Heels be the Colorado Buffaloes of a couple years ago. Remember, Colorado wasn't even that good. I mean, they didn't even go above 500, didn't make a bowl game. But you put them on national television, on Friday night games, on Saturday night games, they were doing like 5 or 6 million people. And it was like, this thing is a ratings bonanza. And they were obviously a huge conversation with Deion, with Shador, with Travis Hunter. It was fun. And it was a lot more fun last year, especially if you're betting on them, because you get a pretty good value in some of their games. And they were much more entertaining to watch. But people said, hey, ESPN is going to take the same logic they had with Colorado and try to ride Belichick. And they're scheduled to be potentially 10 of their 12 games could be on the main channel, being like different prime time situations, and approach them like Deion and try to use them to rate and to get a lot of people to watch. Now, Belichick in North Carolina opens on Monday Night Football. I think it's September 1st. That leads into week 1 of the NFL. The Eagles Cowboys play on Thursday night. A lot of people are going to watch that game. But part of the reason we watched Colorado these last couple of years, one, their quarterback was talented. So when you just watched them on offense, like they had an opportunity to be explosive on every drive. And then they had one of the more transcendent players we've ever seen. They had a guy going both ways. So it was like, yeah, Deion Sanders, huge personality. But I didn't watch Colorado games really for Deion, right? I watched it for Shador and Travis Hunter. Like, I saw Belichick the last 3 or 4 years of his New England career. We didn't watch Pat's game. Why? They were unwatchable. So if North Carolina is going to be a ratings cash cow and a team that draws eyeballs and garners the interest of casual fans, they're going to need to be entertaining. And I don't know if they're talented enough, right? I mean, they have a transfer quarterback from, I think, South Alabama. The best player on their team just left because he was draft eligible and got drafted by the Chargers in the first round. I don't know how good they're going to be. I hope they're good because I think it would be an interesting story, but I don't know if the talent is there. And, the one thing Bill could do in the NFL is over the course of time, because he had Tom and some other core guys, is he could take random guys and have them overachieve and develop them. But that is a lot harder in college. One, simply you don't have the time. Like you're not just majoring in football 24/7, 365. Some of these guys just have to spend some time on academics. And there are certain rules in terms of how often you can keep them on the practice field and things that are going against you. But if I was a betting man right now, like, does this become Colorado? I'd be a little surprised. Now, I think their first year they could easily go above 500 if you tell me they went 7-5 or 8-4 or even 9-3. But are they going to be that entertaining? Like, part of what made Colorado fun is just the way they played, right? One, their defense got a little bit better last year. Their offensive line was terrible. Shador had to run around and make plays. But overall, it was just kind of the Wild Wild West watching that squad take the field. That is not the way Belichick wants to play. I think in a perfect world, Bill would try to win these games like 14-10. Play defense, run the ball, slow down the game. It would not shock me at all if that is the style, because you would say historically that is the way Bill views football, right? Is just slow down, out physical you, out mentally tough you, especially if Tom's not around. This is like the poor man's Mac Jones version. So I'm fascinated to watch North Carolina. If I was a betting man, they're not going to be as interesting as Colorado was the last couple of years. Okay, we'll end on this. It's Fugazi Friday, and a couple things. One, I haven't got that deep in terms of buying things for my future child, but we did buy a stroller, and just looking at other stuff from car seats to you name it. It is pretty crazy how expensive it is to have a kid. And I'm not sitting here to complain. Comes with the territory. But I'm just going to use this as a piece of advice if you're a young person and you're just be very careful. Like before you have it. Like I couldn't have done this 10 years ago. I'm 40 years old. I couldn't have done this. I couldn't afford it at 30. I don't know how I could have afforded the things that are basically like essentials. This isn't talking like get them the coolest clothes or whatever. It is just insane how much stuff costs in 2025 for one child. I mean, I know some of these people in our life, I would call them acquaintances that have a bunch of kids. It's like I just they aren't I don't think doing that well financially. I have no clue how they're doing it, honestly. And props to everyone that just there's a will, there's a way. I mean, you don't have a choice once they're coming, but it's expensive. I'll say that. I do want to just bring this CEO Coldplay situation and just put this to bed because I don't never heard of this guy. Honestly, even the company's name wasn't that familiar with. I think everyone's first reaction when these two people get caught in their embrace at the concert is, "Oh my God, what a scumbag! What about his wife? What about her husband? What about their family?" My overall take would be this: if you are willing to act like that in public, be that brazen and just out in the open, especially I think they were with other coworkers, you fucking hate your significant other. You don't respect them, you don't like them. There's a difference of obviously some people, I'm sure people listening might have side girlfriend, side piece, have cheated in your life. And it's not always just because you hate or you don't have any respect. Whatever the situation is, there are a lot of variables. Probably could hear a million different stories, right? But in this situation, there is no way you can convince me that these two people to do that at a concert don't hate their significant others. So I would say this for their significant others. Now, if they are just living in la la land and didn't see that one coming, I would say that situation just to get out of there. Because why would you want to be with someone that hates you? Because I the cockiness to do that in a public setting is one of the craziest things in 2025. 1987, no camera phones. Anyone that saw the Netflix show Missing Amy, when this girl disappears from a cruise, back in like the late 90s, there weren't cameras. It was just like no one had any information because no one had camera phones. In 2025, with cameras everywhere, camera phones, social media, people just you can play like 3 degrees of separation anywhere you're at with every human in America. I just both their husband and wives and families are better off separating from these people because they did not like you. I mean, just that simple. They wanted to be with that other person, and their actions said it all. Because that is as crazy of a public interaction, especially for a guy that's running the company with his HR director. I also think this: you got to be selfish in life. And so many of you that work at different corporations that have certain rules, there's so much. And as you get older, it's just impossible to not see for rules for thee, not me. So basically, like, yeah, I'm not following the rules, even though I'm telling you to do it. It just shows you. Obviously, they had specific requirements about what you could and could not do with office relationships, and the CEO of the company is banging the HR director. Sometimes you got to be selfish, man. So like when you get caught up in this thing, like what is my company gonna think? Like they don't give a fuck. They would fire you tomorrow. You're meaningless to them. And if you think the people that above you on the org chart are following the rules, they're probably not. Now maybe not to this extreme, but man, I've never seen a situation go more viral that I kept asking myself, like, what am I supposed to know these people? But my one conclusion after a week was like, I think it's hard to quantify how little respect and care that they actually had for their family. So I think in a weird way, and I'm not saying that their family should be over it a week later, but big picture, best thing that ever happened to them, get out from under these two people.